So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success story series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Poonam Kaur, who's CEO at FDS Corporate Finance. So, Poonam, thank you for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, your business, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me this afternoon on your podcast. Hello, everybody. I'm Poonam Kaur. I am the CEO at FDS Corporate Finance. We are an award-winning corporate finance boutique based in Wakefield in West Yorkshire, but we do work nationally and globally. Having helped over 450 businesses with their strategic journey, whether they're thinking about buying or selling a business, we are the team to help them on that strategic journey.
Brilliant, wonderful. 450 businesses. That's a lot of businesses to have helped and supported over time.
Yes, Chris, absolutely. We've at FDS, when we talk about the 450, that is purely down to buying and selling businesses. But we've helped many, many other clients with other needs, whether that's a company valuation, whether that's supporting them through a shareholder dispute, or whether that is sitting on a board as a non-exec or a trustee. So we
Wow,
we will support businesses wherever needed and give them that support and advice. It is really supporting that whole business journey,
brilliant,
from the beginning towards the end.
brilliant. So what makes a great client for you? Who do you serve best? If anybody watching, you'd say, well, look, we would really help you if you were ABC. What would you say to that?
Uh, Predominantly, we focus on that owner managed business
Yeah,
scale, Chris. For us, it's helping clients that are probably too busy working in the business and not
yeah,
having that enough time to work on the business and things. But one thing that we've always found, Chris, on a business journey, because of the clients that we're serving, it's been their life
yes,
majority of the time, and there will come a time when that succession planning or exit strategy needs to be considered and thought about. And, we say to our clients, you really need to be thinking that quite, soon on, even if it's 3 or 5 years away, because it'll help you to make a much more informed decision about what you want to do and why you want to do it. And
yeah,
for us, it's about demystifying that process, helping them and supporting them, guiding them through it. We've done it hundreds of times. We recognize that our clients probably will only do it once in a lifetime. And
yes.
it's having that trusted advisor beside you day and night, taking you through that whole process.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Such an important, as you said, an important time, quite a challenging time for many people. I was lucky enough to sell my first business myself, and it's certainly an experience. I was saying to somebody the other day, I think we signed everything at get it right, 4:53 in the morning, in Leeds, and it was gone. All the negotiations had gone all night, and it was just a really weird experience of sort of it was always a bit of an anticlimax because how are you going to celebrate at 4:53 in the morning? It's
Yeah.
a cup of coffee or whatever. So it was an interesting experience. If I could put you on the spot a little bit, because I think it'd be quite interesting for anyone watching. What would you say would be the top two or three things people that are, let's say, selling their business? What are the two or three most important things they should consider?
One of the things that we always say, Chris, is we ask the clients why are they thinking about doing what they're doing, or what point have they got to? And a lot of the times, it can be just that they've hit a ceiling, that they feel that they've taken the business so far and now it needs a big brother or a big sister to take it to that next level, and that additional support. How are they going to do that, and what are
Yeah,
their options in that sense? If it comes to a point that they've come to a point in their life where they're thinking about retirement, or taking things a bit easy, it's about understanding, well, what my options are in that scenario.
yeah,
And a lot of the times, businesses leave it too late, and actually they're not
yes,
able to achieve the outcomes that they once desired. A lot of the times, the couple of things that we always take into consideration is, what is it that you want to
Yeah.
gain from the transaction? What is it? Is it a number? Is it freedom? Is it less involved on a day-to-day basis? Then what is best for the business going forward? And that means is actually what's going to be really good for that company, because as
Great.
directors, we have responsibility of putting the business first and thinking
Yeah.
on that perspective. And then thirdly, what does it mean for the team?
Yeah.
In that scenario as well. Do you have a team, and have you built a culture and DNA that you don't want to really hinder? You want that to continue in some vein, etc. And I think it's really important to just understand those three elements. What do you want? What's best for the business, and what would be best for the team?
Brilliant.
And then it's about understanding the pros and cons of those different options, and understanding actually this is going to really help me make a much more informed decision. We're not the decision makers. We are the people who are going to really help you look through those routes. And being really honest with you, Chris, we come across time and time again, actually, it's a knowledge piece. People don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And it's about understanding those various routes. And it's like, oh, we've never thought about that.
Yeah.
Oh, can we do this? Those things come up time and time again when we're having
Brilliant.
discussions with our clients.
Brilliant. No, it's really fascinating that it's because in what we do in helping people grow their businesses, we do use Stephen Covey's point of start with the end in mind. What's
Yeah.
the end goal? And one of the things I think that we do that a lot of that one of the first activities we do with a new client is what we call an alignment, and that's aligning the business goals to the personal goals of its owners. Because ultimately, an owner managed business its main purpose is to give the owners the lifestyle they choose to have, do other great things, can employ great people, do great things in the community, but that's its purpose. And yet I find, I don't know if you find, very few business owners have actually thought about what the perfect outcome would be for them personally that we can then structure the business to deliver.
Absolutely. And I think the thing is, whilst they might have some kind of thought process, they just don't know how to get there and what the
Absolutely.
process is. And for us, it's about, really helping and supporting them through that journey,
Yeah.
doing the heavy lifting, making sure that we can get the best outcome from all the aspects. And Chris, there'll never be a time where you're going to tick everybody's box.
Yeah.
You're never going to, get everybody on that same page. There will be some give and take, but what we can really do is tick as many boxes as possible,
Brilliant.
and that's the key.
Brilliant. Love it, Poonam. And could I ask a similar question? In fact, so I'm working with quite a few clients that are quite acquisitive themselves at the moment. Obviously, one of the most leveraged way of growing a business is through acquisition. What would be the top two or three things to look out for in acquiring a business, in general? That's a very broad question, so forgive me, but any of
No,
your top tips would be really valuable.
absolutely. So one of the myths about buying a business is that you've got to have lots of money. Not necessarily.
Great.
That is one of the big tips, that
Yep.
if you're thinking about growing, don't be hindered by the process of thinking, oh my God, I do not have millions. So how am I going to acquire a business? A lot of transactions can be structured in various ways to manage how you can pay for that business. And
Brilliant.
I'll tell you now, a lot of businesses that sold, it's very rare they get 100% of what they want all on day one. So just to put that out there is
Brilliant.
okay. First of all, think about, that don't let that cash element hinder your process to begin with. Secondly, I think be clear about your strategic plan. What is it that you're trying to achieve? Because that's going to be really give you clarity about actually where are you going to aim. It's got to be aligned to your strategic business plan. I'd see so many owners that might say, oh, that sounds like a good idea, but was that part of your strategic plan and the overall vision? Is it going to meet the objectives that you were looking at achieving? And thirdly, is not to be too fixated on one plan, because things can
Yes.
change and amend. So I think it's having that broader view of thinking,
Yeah.
well, actually, we hadn't thought about this, but let's just think about it and see, does this make sense? Do we want to explore this further? And just
Brilliant.
have that general overview of being more flexible with that approach
Yes.
about having that open mind.
I think it's, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense because I think it's about understanding. If you've got clarity on the end goal, then the route take may change over time. With one of the examples I love is the idea of sailing a boat across the ocean.
Yeah.
We maybe have a destination. Well, the wind and the tide can take us off track. So we can adjust course. We can adjust the direction we're headed to get us back on track if we want to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
so.
really important though, and this is one of the things that we find really key is that, when you are thinking about acquiring a business, you don't want your current business to be distracted or affected. So it's about
Yeah.
making sure that you've got the right people on boarded, that it doesn't, negatively impact the current business that you've built today either.
Yeah, I bet that makes perfect sense. I have seen, as I'm sure you have, a couple of times where, yeah, that it's actually completely sort of pushed a business off course,
Yeah.
but by not preparing for that, and I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Is being prepped. So,
Absolutely. A lot of businesses don't fail because of, the company looks a good fit. It's that cultural mismatch as well. So
yes.
culture is a big, big piece that needs to be considered on any kind of acquisition.
Great point. And yeah, thank you. I think that's really, really valuable. Is it a good match of culture? Because if it's not, there's a hell of a lot, or there's potentially a lot of work to be done in trying to bring two cultures together, rather than focus on finding a business with a similar culture, I guess, for acquisition.
Absolutely.
So, Poonam, if perhaps we could start with looking back a little bit, and you could tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, so Chris, my journey started in that maths classroom where I absolutely loved the numbers. That
Brilliant.
was my forte. I grew up in a business. My family had a family business, and it was a retail of shops and things. And I'd spent my days on the tills and plugging those numbers, giving the change. So I knew that, I absolutely loved numbers, and that was my thing. When I then went to college, I never had that desire that I wanted to go to university. I was really keen to get working, and when I started my career journey, I thought that I would go into banking. I thought that that's probably the route that I was going to undertake, but when I spoke to my careers advisor, he said, "Have you thought about accountancy?" And I was like, "Oh, I thought I'd have to go to university to do that." And he's like, "No, you don't need to. You can do it through an apprenticeship."
Right.
And
Yep.
I was like, "Right, okay." So then I went and did some work experience at my mum's accountants at the time, and I was like,
Brilliant.
"Oh, I'll give that a go." And I loved it. I absolutely loved it,
Brilliant.
Chris. So I embarked on then getting an apprenticeship, which I did with a firm called Clough and Company, and I trained and qualified with them throughout my journey. And through that journey, Chris, I got married. I had a number of children. I'm a mum of four now.
Wow.
And I was doing all my studying throughout that period. And so you probably can gather that, I can't sit still for long and I need to have those challenges in life.
Yeah, yeah.
From my perspective, while I was doing all of that and managing all that, and don't get me wrong, Chris, I didn't do it alone. I had a really good support network around me, my family, my
Amazing.
husband, my mum, and everybody. But I'd gone through that, and for me, I felt a sense of achievement by
Yeah.
doing that. But once I'd qualified, Chris, I got to a point where I was a bit like, oh, this doesn't feel challenging enough, and there seems not a lot going on. So I went myself up to a senior auditor, and I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to become an audit manager or a partner in that field. This is compliance focused. I feel like I don't add value. And you may have gathered that, I like to have that interaction.
Yeah.
For me, it's about adding value. That's where I get my satisfaction with clients. So then I moved to FDS. Coming up to 15 years ago now.
Brilliant.
And I joined FDS as a senior corporate finance exec. And literally, Chris, when I started, when you just feel the sense of this was meant for me,
Yeah.
that's how I felt. And it was just I absolutely loved it, and I still love it. I absolutely love what I do till
Brilliant.
this day. And now I'm CEO, and we're an employee-owned business. So we've gone through our own succession plan and journey,
Wonderful.
and we've grew through that period as well. So for me, what I do now, and what I've been doing for the last 15 years, it just felt that this was meant for me. I absolutely love it. And people say, "Oh, one day you'll be thinking about retire." I actually don't think I will ever retire because I absolutely love what I do.
Brilliant. Well, that comes across so strongly, and yeah, I'm a bit similar. I'll probably do less of what I do, but I've always loved coaching people, and it just and the yeah, I can't imagine not doing it. So it's yeah, wonderful. And as a business and as an individual, what would you say some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome so far?
Oh, there's been a few, Chris. I think the first thing is, Chris, when I did, start my career, it wasn't soon after that I fell pregnant with my first
Right.
child.
Goodness.
And I think, there were times when I think my commitment to my career were questioned.
Right.
And I think that can be quite challenging at
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
when actually, me having a family should not hinder my career choices. And,
Absolutely.
sometimes we get put in a bit of a stereotype box. I'm a woman of color, I'm from a Sikh background, and it was very much that, oh, is this now they're going to be, a typical situation that might look out of the ordinary in
Yeah.
some cases. But being really honest, Chris, just because of the person I am, I actually, I'm quite strong and vocal in terms of saying, actually, if there's going to be any thought processes about my career development, it should be focused on my skills,
Yeah.
not that I'm a mother or I've got
Yes.
family in the background. It should be quite, anything should be questioned on what I'm delivering.
Brilliant.
And on that focus. So there has been tough times,
Yeah.
Chris, in that sense. And then the other one was when I did actually enter FDS. Corporate finance is traditionally been heavily a men weighted
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
And for me, at that point in time when I did transition, in my mind, Chris, I was very much, when I was thinking about my next steps for career journey, I was very much thinking, yeah, I'm going to go to a bigger company and industry, work the ladder. That was my thought process. I never thought I'd join a really small team and that I would be in that kind of a situation where, I did have that security with my accountancy role, that I'd
Yeah.
been there a number of years. Of course, I had mortgage and bills and a family, as part of that. And you think there is that security aspect. So going to a very small team
Yeah.
and not knowing a person very long can really sometimes, put some kind of fear element into your next
Yes.
step in journey. But actually, when I actually thought about that in more detail, well, Joe Haig, who is my co-director and the founder of the business, there was nobody better I could have learned from.
Brilliant.
Having that first-hand experience within a small team, it exposes you to so much,
Yeah.
and your development actually accelerates at a higher pace than in a larger organization probably
Yeah.
does. And so from that perspective, I've really overcome that. But even till now, Chris, on my journey, when I'm working on transactions, and if it's heavily male dominated on the other side, I think they underestimate what my abilities are going to be,
Brilliant.
especially in those negotiation stages. And actually, I've had like buyers on the other side when we've been acting on a seller side saying, actually, Poonam, next time, can we have you on our side?
Oh,
The
wonderful.
biggest compliment to
Yeah.
me, because it just shows that actually, it shouldn't matter that you're a woman or a woman of color or anything, that it should always be focused on your skills and ability about delivering that work to the best of your abilities. And for me, Chris, it's really important to me, as part of my legacy that I can really share that, there's so many young women that feel that they have to make a choice between a
Yeah.
career or a family.
Yeah.
And I want to really change that biasness.
Brilliant.
It's about changing that narrative.
Yeah.
And you can have it all. I'm an example of that,
Brilliant.
to say that you can.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, and it's just finding the way that works for the individual, isn't it? And it's yeah, not taking no for an answer. Is that the right word, the right way around? It's yeah, wonderful. And similarly, what are the biggest things you've learned about growing a successful business?
It's tough, Chris. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the realities of growing a business. It's not easy.
Yes.
Hard work, dedication is needed at all times. You
Yeah.
have to be really focused and really putting the hard graft in.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer, that without that, that you will be hindering your success if you do not put that,
Yes.
hard graft into what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is, Chris, it can be quite lonely at the top.
Yeah.
And it's about understanding that you do have that network or that
Yes.
support that can help you navigate those situations. For me, this is my second job, and for me, I've worked my way up the top here. And, there's not. Jo is great. She's great. She's been in business a lot longer than I have. But for me, I'm always learning something new, and you don't know what you don't know. And it's really important to, even at my stage as a CEO, to have feedback and have,
Yeah.
Some feedback about, am I doing things right? Am I doing it wrong? Could I have done something better? How can I improve? For me, I'm always thinking about, I need to be always self-developing myself as well and making sure I'm getting the relevant training and support needed.
Absolutely, yes. It's because we've always got to be ahead of the game, haven't we? Because things will develop, and we do need to develop with them. There's a great book I was talking to somebody about earlier, by a guy called Marshall Goldsmith, who I've been lucky enough to train with a couple of times. And the book is great, but the title itself is valuable, which is "What Got Us Here Won't Get Us There."
Yeah.
And it's like, constantly renewing our knowledge and capabilities, really, really key. And Poonam, I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that is business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
My biggest impact has firstly is my mum.
Brilliant.
Lost my dad when I was 8, and my mum had to take over the family business at the time. And somebody who was born in India, didn't really speak very good English, having to take on the businesses and really grow those businesses was a huge inspiration.
Brilliant.
I won't forget, Chris, ever the time, the commitment that she put into working in the business just so she could provide a good home for us as
Yep.
children. And when you see somebody like my mum and you think, oh my God, what a great lady and what an inspiration she is, especially when she's in a country that isn't her first language and things like
Yep.
that. She can do what she's done in life. She sacrificed quite a lot. She put her life on hold for us, Chris,
Yeah. Yeah.
in that sense. And so she is my biggest inspiration because she has given us really strong foundations for us to really excel to where we are today. And even till now, I can ring her any time of day, and I know she's there. She's brought up my children with me and things like that. She's been there looking after
Brilliant.
them, picking them up after school. So these are the things that really help. And then Jo, in terms of this corporate finance field, and just being my support system in terms of even with the succession planning, she's there making sure that we're doing it in a manageable way where we can take things at our own pace.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Yes, I'm sure that would have been really helpful. But I mean, what a couple of great role models you have there, clearly. And whether it's from them or other sources, do you have any favourite quotes or sayings that you catch yourself using a lot, whether that's about business or success or life in general?
So our values at FDS are be kind, work hard, stay positive, and have fun. And they really do instill with
Right.
my own personal values. I
Yeah.
think working hard, being kind costs us nothing,
Yeah.
and it's about being transparent and having that integrity. I am, I'm born and bred Yorkshire. We don't know how to say it any other way. They're not saying it how it is, kind of thing. So for us, it is really important that, when we're working with anybody, whether we're working with them or whether they're our acquaintances or whatever, those values are really important. And you've got to have fun on the journey, because without that, what's the whole point?
Yeah. Yeah. Makes absolute sense. And Pranav, I'm keen to know what you'd say you'd learned about yourself throughout your journey so far.
Still learning, Chris. I think, what I have learned is that as an accountant, I am risk adverse, Chris.
Yep.
So, I think I do. I really am able to read, the type of person that I am. And I do take that in context when, I hear other people's views and how they assess things. So I am always learning about how I can frame risk better for myself and in
Yes.
business for myself. It's quite easy. Yeah, I'm not saying easy, but because when I'm working with so many businesses and you see the things that they go through and the risks that they embark upon, and everybody has a different risk profile, we're
Yes.
all built differently. That's
Definitely.
absolutely understandable. But for me, I think sometimes I just think that, I am always thinking about, right, what is the worst case scenario in this situation? And I think that is good to know, but
Yes.
don't focus on that. It's about being positive. So it's that aspect of saying, well, that is the worst, but look at all the things that are going right as well and
Yep.
taking that into balance.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's like, what is the worst case? And it's A, that isn't necessarily what's going to happen, especially if we know that that could happen. But also, if
Absolutely.
that's the worst, why don't we focus on the best? Because it is so easy to awful. There's a phrase I picked up from a lady years ago, which I love, which is awfulize things. I don't think it's a real word, but I love the idea that we make everything
Yeah,
awful.
yeah,
But unfortunately, the human condition tends towards the negative.
yeah,
I remember somebody said years ago. He said, if I was to tell you everything, every decision you make and action you take moving forward will be perfect, will work, you'd think I was an idiot, and you might be right. He said, but worry is sort of believing everything's going to go wrong, and
yeah.
real life is somewhere in the middle. It isn't it, and it's accepting that.
Absolutely. And I think, that's where I am really working on myself in that sense, because I think, um, it, our brains are function to, worry and have that element to it. But I think then it's about putting that in context. And I think it
Yes.
comes back down to my main principles that if you work hard and you feel that at that point in time you're making the right decisions based on what
Yep.
information you have and all of that, then actually the outcome will be the outcome. And,
Absolutely.
and, and that's the situation. But we'll deal with that when we get there. Let's not worry about that today, which we
Absolutely.
tend to do. But, let's worry about that when we get there. But in the meantime, let's just focus on what we're doing and really be focused in those areas. And,
Yep.
I think throughout life, whilst I said, I've always been in, situations that are quite challenging and things like that. There is days, Chris, when I say, can I just have a break?
Yeah.
I just need a break.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Just because we love the whole thing doesn't mean we love everything of it about it, if that makes sense. It's the big picture we love, but yeah, there's days
Absolutely.
that we can still have a crappy day. I remember somebody and I picked this up, and I always have a positive outcome. Somebody says that how things go, and I'll always say positive, fantastic, amazing. But it's okay to have a crappy day. I can still be fantastic even if I'm having a bit of a crappy day. It doesn't have to directly let it affect my mindset.
Absolutely. And when there is those occasions when you do have a crappy day, it's really important that you can have somebody that you can offload to. So
Absolutely.
my poor husband gets it every time. But honestly, I'd be lost without him, because actually, he just it's about putting things in perspective again, isn't it? And that's all it is.
It's interesting. We call them BMW moments in Action Coach. And it stands for bitching, moaning, and whining. It's okay to do that. And oh, I'm having a BMW moment. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
But interesting enough,
That's
my
actually
coach,
really good. I'm going to write that down.
please, please,
BMW moment.
please do. But interestingly enough, and I've never tried this, but my coach told me, because I have my own coach, because I have this, is we can't do a BMW moment. It's impossible for us more than 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting is that, like, but the value of getting it out, is to say, as long as the other party is a willing party to this, it's actually quite cathartic just to say and get it out, and then it's gone, then it's released.
I'll
And
tell you something, there's been a few BMW moments, and when I've chatted like Joe about it, and I'm like, I actually end up saying, right, Joe, I've said it now, right, I'm over it now, I'm getting on with it.
yes,
But you do, I think it is that, just that unleashedness that you
it,
sometimes just need to say it, and then you're like, right, get on with it
absolutely,
now.
absolutely. We start. I start every coaching session with what we call a whiffle, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
it stands for what I feel like expressing.
Ah,
Because how we feel is always correct. How we feel is always correct, but we
yeah,
have to understand the reason we feel like that is our interpretation of systems, communication, things that have happened. It's not necessarily we're not, but the feeling is correct, but the reason for the feeling may be a misunderstanding or a misinterpretation. But it's okay to do that, and I think getting that out and just accepting that, because any meeting, whether it's one to one or one to many, if somebody's feeling in a particular way, it's good to understand and accept that before we start the meeting. Whether that's
absolutely.
happy, sad, anxious, fearful, if we understand it, we can make allowances for it, if that makes sense. Um,
It does, and I've come across situations where, the head says something and the heart says something else,
yes,
and
absolutely.
it's about then just actually, they are emotions of our bodies, and we have to react to that. But then it
Absolutely.
again, actually, and I do put this in context in terms of when we're helping clients with their journeys, we're trying to demystify that, and that's what we need to do in our own lives as well. Is like, yeah, the head saying one thing, heart saying another. Let's just delve into this a bit more
Yes,
so we can get a better understanding. So we're able to make a much more informed decision about
a-
things.
absolutely. I mean, even, and I often use the example of, even a logical decision may not be the right one.
Yeah.
Because if it, yeah, and somebody I worked with years ago, I love the idea. He always talked about his advice being what he give his mother, like, in other words, being honest and open. But I always say
Yeah.
to people, look, if this decision, even if it might be the most obvious one, isn't going to help you sleep at night, don't do it. That,
Yeah.
it might be the right thing for you, whether that's financially or whatever. But if it's going to cause you any form of significant emotional challenge, then don't do it. We don't have to sell, in the context of selling business. We don't have to sell for the most if we're going to
Yeah.
worry about it. We don't have to, you know, we don't have to. There's lots of things we don't have to do. Um,
Absolutely. And we've had cases where actually the biggest bidders have not ended up being the buyers because there's other aspects to it.
yes,
It could be that culture, DNA fit, or whatever.
yeah,
It it can be lots of other things that you need to take as part of that consideration to make the right decision. And I
definitely,
absolutely agree. It is about just channelizing all those thoughts and ensuring that you're able to make a much more informed decision. I
yeah,
think where it goes wrong is, Chris, when we don't do that
yeah.
and we make a decision just off the cuff and not gone through that process of thinking about, right, what is the right way forward here?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And it's one of the beliefs I've got is that we talk about feeling and we talk about gut feeling things, and I believe our gut feeling is basically our subconscious, which is one of the most powerful, computers in the world trying to tell us something. Now, our subconscious can't directly communicate with our conscious language wise. So it's telling us something through our gut. It's saying, no, this is good, this is bad. And we should listen to it. We definitely should listen to it because the processing has happened. It's just not happened in a way that we can consciously express it, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. Absolutely. I absolutely relate to all of that.
So, Poonam, I'm keen to know we have a definition of a true business in action coach, and that is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without its owners. And I'm keen to know what your thoughts are on that as a definition of a true business.
I think the way that you've just described that, Chris, is that, when we're talking to business owners, if you can become the less reliable person reliant on that business,
Yes.
then that is going to maximize that outcome. If a business is heavily reliant on you as an individual and you're embedded to it, then that's going to give you a big high risk of concern, because what if something happened to you? What
Yeah.
happens in that situation? And forget about selling or anything of that nature, but that could mean just on a day-to-day basis, is the operations going to stop on that
Yeah.
that side of things? So I think I think the definition that you've just used, I think that is a powerful definition to help businesses to understand that actually this is where you're going to create a business that can stand on its own 2 feet.
Yeah.
And that's what you've got to have in place. That doesn't mean that you don't have any involvement, and that absolutely should do, but you should have backup plans for plan B and plan C,
Yeah.
just in case something happens.
Yeah, I often put a can in there. It can work without its owners because it's about choice. It's about A, giving choice. But B, I mean, one of the things we fundamentally believe, it also creates more value of the business. If business is proven to be independent of its owners, it's significantly more valuable when might come to sale than it would be if it's demonstrated as being dependent. Would you agree with that? I mean, you don't have to I don't want to put you on the spot, but
I think it depends on the situation,
cool.
Chris. I
Yep.
think, if somebody is thinking about putting an employee ownership trust in place, then
Yes.
actually you can still do that transaction with you still being involved, but there's got to be that long-term plan of thinking, well, how are we going to, within time,
Yep.
take that reliance away? That
Yes.
doesn't mean that it's going to impact value, because you're still there and it's absolutely fine. You've got a plan that
Perfect.
when we work on that basis. If you are thinking about a retirement and you're heavily involved, anybody who's looking at buying your business, so a trade buyer or a private equity buyer, they will want to ensure for you to gain that maximum value, either they'll want you to give a sufficient handover period,
Yep.
or they're going to make a reduction in price, saying, well,
Yep.
actually, to replace you, Chris, we're going to have to put X, Y, and Z in place,
Yep.
and that might hinder customer relationships, supplier relationships, all of those things. So that does devalue your business if there's that heavy reliance. Does that help just clarify those?
It really does. It's really good point that it doesn't necessarily have to be the case if we're looking to create something to the future. But yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. No, thank you. That really helps. And so looking forward then, Poonam, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
I think obviously, Chris, first of all this uncertainty in the global
Yeah.
economy, that doesn't help any business.
No, not at all.
I think when COVID and the pandemic hit, there was a slowdown on traditional exit routes happening. So people
Yeah.
were not buying and selling businesses as much.
Yes.
And that's when actually the rise of EOTs kind of came more to its fruition.
Yep.
Prior to COVID, there was less than 500. Now there's just under 3,000 that have transitioned into an employee-owned business since then.
Yeah.
I think, we have become one of the lead advisors in that. We've worked on circa 100 clients with EOTs now as well in that area. But I think, we've seen a lot of businesses that have had to close as a consequence of this global uncertainty and the cash constraints. Now, whilst pandemic happened and the government were providing support at that point in time, it seems that a lot of businesses got over that hurdle, but actually subsequently are finding the strains now, the increase in employers NI and the national insurance increases, the increase in living wage and wage. The hospitality sector has been really hit by this. But for us as FDS, I think, we went through our succession planning in 2020 and we have taken this steady approach to make sure that there is, that plan in place for us to take over. And it's been working successfully, Chris, because our business was heavily reliant on Jo. And it's to a certain degree, it still kind of is. She's still got, 30 plus years more experience on top. And that's something that I'm never going to be able to match in that regard. So that, building relationships, building in that network does take time. And because we provide a trusted service, it's about building relationships. We're not selling, a pen here. We are looking at selling somebody's business that they've been involved with and nurtured like their own child for many, many years and things of that nature. So it is about, FDS getting more and more stable and taking that reliance away from Jo as much as we can. And for us, we're in that phase. So whilst we, grew when Jo was fully involved in the business, we've had to now change our strategic direction in terms of just making sure actually, we're in this transition period, so we may not grow, but what we're doing is turning that dial on that reliance element. And that's how we've looked at our strategic plan, because we want to be here, we've been here for 35 years, but we want to be here for a lot longer going forward as well.
Brilliant. Yes, let's hope so. That's wonderful. And final question, Poonam, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that, do you think?
What we do as youngsters, we start creating barriers in our own minds, and we tend to believe we're not either good enough or we can't do it, or this isn't going to be possible, or this isn't the norm, the challenges are there and things of that nature. One thing I would say to people who are embarking on a career or thought process is there's always a way. If you're determined enough and you've got the hard work and determination to do it, there's always a way. And it's about finding that way. And it's about having that support system in place. So one thing I will say is don't let anybody tell you anything different. If you really, really want something, never give up, because there will be a way. It might just take a bit longer. It might be a different route that you thought to, but actually there will be a way.
Wonderful. What great words of wisdom for anybody. So at any age, I would say also. Poonam, it's been fascinating to talk to you today, and thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your experience and your knowledge. And for anyone that's watching and would like to get in touch with you or FDS, what's the best way of doing that?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. We've got our website, wearefds.com. Can contact us on there.
Yep.
And I'm happy to share my contact details with you, Chris. So if they wanted to get in touch with you, happy for you to pass on those details too.
Perfect. Brilliant. Well, look, it'd be great to swing by another 6-12 months to just see what's going on and the development of you in the business. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.